The Revival, they apparently went through their downside. I guess the way the payment structure works with the downside, they had went through it like a couple of months ago. So now they're not getting paid at all while they're sitting at home. And Dawson's contract is up this month in a few weeks, whereas Wilder is not up for another few months until June. So if they're going to be used as a team, Dawson's going to have to sit on the sidelines until Wilder is free to go. So basically, that's a long period of time to not get paid.
Yeah, and I don't know what kind of money they made. They weren't up there forever, but I mean, they probably made a little bit of money, but that money, it's nowhere near what people think. For a lot of the talent, and even though it was more supposedly than in previous years, I don't know. It's very possible they hit their downside, and if they did, WWE would 100% pull their pay. I know when I went home, I can again tell you from first-hand experience that when I walked out of WWE, I walked out in May. My contract wasn't up until August. I already knew my game plan because I knew I could fall on injury pay. At the time, though, I hadn't got any work done. I just walked out. And they tried to suspend my pay like 2 weeks later. And they said, we're not going to pay you if you're sitting at home. And I said, fuck you, I'm hurt. And I had a ruptured eardrum and a nose that I never got fixed. I could never breathe out of. So I made them fix my ear and nose. And then I got put on injury pay right away. And and I got paid. I stayed on the injured list. I didn't get cleared until the day my contract expired, which was then I went and released them publicly because they wanted me to get cleared so they could announce that they released me, even though my contract had ran up. So I released them, and I didn't get cleared. After I put that video out, then I was on my way to go get cleared. I did that video on the way to get cleared, got cleared, and then let them know, and then I beat them to the punch where they're not going to put that out. Carano messaged me thanking me for everything, and that was what it was. But they were going to not pay me until I hadn't hit my downside yet on that. But those guys, if you hit your downside, you're not getting paid.
So how does the downside work? You have the choice to get it all earlier. It's not split out over the year.
No. So what happens is, say you're on a $250,000 downside, and every weekend you're working live events. What they will essentially do is, and you're figured in for the whole year, you're on everything, you got all your action figures and all this other stuff, and you get the video game and all this other pay-per-view, the network stuff. All they're obligated to pay you is your downside, and then you get this other stuff figured in. So say you have a $250,000 downside, but because you've worked every pay-per-view for the year and with your action figures and all the other merchandise stuff, say you hit $400,000 and it's November and your contract isn't up till December 31st, or say you hit it in August, you're at $400,000 and then you go home. The way the contracts are written, they don't have to pay you any more money on your downside. So they don't have to pay you your weekly checks now. They still have to pay you royalties and things when those come quarterly, because that's different. Those percentages are locked in. But they don't actually technically have to pay you your weekly downside guarantee, which whatever it would be. I don't have the math for $250,000 a year, whatever it is. Like, I know for me, I remember like the way my contract was at different points. It was like, I don't know if it was like between $5,000 and $6,000 for like, if that was like the bare minimum on things. But like if I wasn't where I would get that check every week. No, that's because they figure your live event pay. Which is why a high downside for all wrestlers is very important, and why WWE tries to talk the guys into not getting a high downside guarantee, is because if you're on $1 million downside, your live event pay, they got to pay you weekly more money to hit your downside by the end of the year. So you get paid a lot more per live event on $1 million downside than you would on a $250,000 downside. But WWE always fucking works the talent, and so many of them, they will get you as low as they can, and they say, oh, you're going to make more money than this anyways, you'll be fine, you're going to be on this and this, and the guys, they're really not in a negotiating position. So you're like, okay, because it is more money than you've made and what you would make doing other things, but it's not what you should make. So
just real quick, one last question on this. So, for instance, Dawson, his contract's expiring in April. Would that downside year be from last April to this coming April?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would mean he made more that met his downside a couple of months ago. So he didn't have to pay the downside.
And it sucks because what they do is your royalties get figured into that. where the royalties should be a separate thing, but they count the royalties towards your downside if this kind of situation happens. Now, if you're there and you're on good terms with everything and you're being used, you make, like I said, what my first real year as Ryback, calendar year, I made, my downside was so low. Like, they didn't switch my downside until, like, it was, I remember I was feuding with Punk and I was broke. Like, I'd been up there for 6 months or whatever it was, and I couldn't even use like a card to fucking get a room. It was stressful. I canceled my cable bill because they kept from being injured. I didn't make any money for a period of time. But my downside, I want to say, the first downside, it was either 100,000 or 150,000 until they switched me to like a whatever it was, the next one up. But and then I went over. I was just under 1.1 million for the year. So obviously you could out earn your downside tremendously on that. But even that wasn't nowhere near what it should have been. And they didn't technically. They got a $150,000 downside. Had I been on a much higher downside, I would have made even more money than that. But that's oftentimes why people don't understand. They will push a new talent like that because it saves them a lot more money than the guys that are making a higher downside, because they will technically have to pay them more for the calendar year if they push those guys. Whereas you could push a new guy, which you see them do, it starts and stops because it costs them less overall as a business, which is why they kind of keep everyone at a certain level. There's a method to the madness with all of it, but ultimately it hurts the product the longer it goes on.
Hey guys, it's the big guy Ryback, and I just want to say thank you very much for watching. Go ahead and punch that like, smash that subscribe button, and check out my all-natural supplement line. Supplement. Stupid! My all-natural supplement line. Feed Me More Nutrition, available on Amazon and feedmemore.com. And as always, Conversation with the Big Guy Ryback, available on all podcast platforms, iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and wherever podcasts are available. Never forget, feed me more.